All right, so it's been a little bit since I recorded. I've been a little bit sick. You can kind of tell in my voice. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it holds out for the rest of the video. I've made a lot of progress on my app though, which I'm pretty excited to share. I did say last time we would be going over my database structure, so we'll talk about that at the beginning, and then I'll give a general update on some of the things I've been working on. So let's dive right in here and take a look. Alrighty, so we are here in the back end of Bubble. I probably am a little bit out of hand here in terms of the number of different data types I have. The general overall principle, I guess, as far as what I'm aware, is that you want to have your databases to be deep with many records rather than wide with a lot of fields in them, I suppose. So if you think about it here, I have company brand colors, fonts, call to actions, logos, and that's to save. I could theoretically put all of these things in company, but then my database starts to get really wide. So if I can make it deeper, whenever I'm going to search for the specific item, say I just need the brand colors at that moment, or I just need the fonts at that moment, then I don't have to pull all of the records in through here every time I'm searching, and so that helps make things a little bit more efficient. That's kind of one of the key principles. The other idea behind databases, basically to me, the easiest way to learn them is if you are good with Excel or things like Airtable, Google Sheets, that kind of a thing, and you understand Z lookups, H lookups, V lookups, index match, relational things, how things link together from one database to another, and you've built something like that before, it's a lot easier to think about structuring your database in Bubble or any application. If you don't understand that concept and how different things relate to each other in databases, it'll probably be a lot harder for you. But I'll just go over what I'm thinking with mine. Again, I did use a template to start out with for this, so it has some that I didn't actually create, one of them being app variables. I don't recommend the template method, but I'm kind of here now and it's hard to get rid of, essentially. Category. So this is if people wanted to categorize their media or the media categories, essentially. Company, we have all these different details. I think they're fairly self-explanatory. Content pillars hosts all of the company's content pillars. So again, could be tied into company, but it doesn't make sense to do that. Similarly, prompts are kind of like a sub of the pillars. So the pillar is the big main idea. The prompt kind of sits underneath of it. So there's 5 prompts for every pillar. Again, could all be in one, but it doesn't make sense to have it that way. Creator. So, and this one was a little tricky naming convention wise, which is another kind of a tip, I suppose, is that every type of data already has a creator, and that's based on who created it in the user. But in this case, creator for me is the creator of the piece of media content. So Alex Hormozi, Andrew Huberman, etc., those are the creators. Media is the specific media item that that person created, so the podcast or the YouTube video. We have the ability to connect to social platforms, so I have a record of all of the platform connections that each company would have. Sorry, media is just videos. Podcasts are just podcasts in the same way. Posts, if you are posting to social, this is like the parent of the posts. And then we have post slides. So if it's a carousel, there's multiple slides for every post. So that's a thing as well. Then once it actually gets posted, I have a record of the post IDs. Again, just to make the database deeper rather than wider. For that, for me, what I'm doing here, I'm doing a little bit of prospecting. So I have a spot to record all of my searches. I automatically built a prospecting tool that scrapes data. So that's pretty cool. Then for the templates, similarly, there's the parent template and then the slide for each of the templates of the social media posts you're creating. Stock images, again, that's all related to companies in here. So you have the company relation and the different data where it's coming from. If people have support requests, that's in here too. That one's pretty standalone though. Again, survey response too, pretty standalone. Users table automatically comes with Bubble, so that's pretty important. However, I did add a whole ton of different fields in here. I should probably break this out, so again, it's not as deep versus wider, but with users, you're not really querying different users, in my case, very often, so it's less relevant for that. Some things too, though, I do like to sometimes this works out as a good little hack workaround. This loading state one, which I thought was a very genius thing once I wrapped my head around this concept. So for some of the things in my application, what happens is it takes a little while to process. And so it's through a backend workflow. And while that backend workflow is happening, I want to display a loading screen on the front end of the app. And so it makes it very easy to track what should be displayed if you can display it by user. So these are just an option set of loading states, different statuses. It's being generated. I have some fun ones like working AI magic and stuff in there. And so while that's all processing, it shifts through the different states. And then once it's processed, it says ready to go. And I can automatically like adjust that per user so that hypothetically, not that anyone does this, but if they were to log in on one device and then quickly go log in on another, they would actually see the same loading state across the board. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then we have some emails sent, so we're tracking all of those, CRM type of a deal. Users can kind of up like a playlist of media that they want to watch or listen to. They can add their own tags, track the watch status of things. They can add their own YouTube channels they want to follow in here too. Those are all from the that I started out with, except for these bottom ones. People find it handy to, if you're categorizing different data types, to put this little like in front of it. And I started doing that with all of them. And then I realized if I wanted to use the API to add data to a specific, it doesn't work with an emoji. I had to take that out of there and just go with the super boring alphabetical option. But that is in there for you if you would like it. Kind of cool. Privacy rules. These can be tricky to wrap your head around as well. What I've done for the most part is I always create an admin privacy rule, which basically gets me full access to things, and then the user in a company. So if the user rule, right? So it's usually associated to the company. So if the company has access to that thing and the user is part of the company, then they will have access to that thing rather than just by user. The reason I've done that is because if I'm building a social media tool and you want to have multiple seats, I guess, for the company, then you can't gatekeep things by the seat or the user. You need to gatekeep things by the company. It just helps for sharing and things like that. And then down the line, people will be able to add their different people at their company, or if they're like marketing agency, they can add their clients in there, but they can only add their client to the specific company that they're working on, not like everyone in the agency, things like that. Then the other thing that's super handy if you are doing a lot of like your database, looking at the data, that kind of thing, doing these different views. So you can kind of what shows up on the different views, which makes it really handy just to kind of what's going on. And it's not like scrolling super far sideways. You do want to try and avoid things like this if you don't need it. It's just like a really big text field that's super duper long and like it makes it hard to scroll through the data. So try to avoid doing some of that whenever you're creating these views, but it just makes it a lot easier. So just to like look at the different stuff that you have going on. And then option sets. So the biggest difference between option sets and data types is that option sets are not editable by the front end users at all. Not if you're an admin, not if you're anything. You cannot edit the option sets. So you want these to be specific things. And I've even made the mistake too of putting something as an option set when it should have been a data type kind of a thing. In some cases, right, the front end, you're not going to just be creating new pages typically out of the blue. These I like have different like down fields, which is maybe a little excessive. You might not need to do that. So I have different like categories, platforms that people can connect to, post sizes. Those aren't going to change a whole bunch. It's kind of, I did mess up though. I was originally going to put the templates in here, but then I realized that down the line, I'm going to want my users to be able to create new templates. And so therefore I can't put them in here. Other ones that I thought were kind of this font family one. Loads all of the Google fonts or has access to all the Google fonts. I find that I had to upload them and load them into the page manually to help do that and to help do I guess of the different fonts. I did was start adding them here. I'll keep adding more Google fonts and more Google fonts, and I will have all of them in here because there's obviously way more than that. Yeah, kind of the idea of that. And then file manager, I've been using this to kind of check your slides will get uploaded in here, all of your images. And so right now, the main reason of me diving into here is like, oh yeah, did this slide go through? Did it work properly? Yes, no, maybe. And I can just check that really easily as well. So hopefully this was useful if you are getting started on building your first Bubble application, kind of database for things. You're like, oh, where is she coming from on all of this? Go back and watch some of the earlier videos. I explain the overall concept of what I'm doing, so that'll connect into why I have the different database structures that I do.